This is the Tallapoosa River. Lazily, it slowly twists, winds, and snakes its way through what used to be some of Alabama's most beautiful, ancient, and majestic forests. The headwaters of this river are in Tallapoosa, Georgia, and it goes all the way to Montgomery, Alabama. At one time, it was sprinkled along its banks with hundreds of Indian villages, Indian towns, and actually Indian cities. Well, hello, and welcome to this Alabama adventure. Glad you decided to join me one more time. Anyway, what I'm going to be talking about tonight is about something that me and a friend found about 30 or 35 years ago now, and we thought we had really discovered some type of Indian artifact, I guess you would call it. I'll get into more of the story and explain a little bit more of what it was. What it was an old tree he and I found one afternoon while we were exploring some land where they were about to do some logging. Or back in those days, it was pulpwood. They were fixing to start cutting pulpwood in this particular area, and he and I decided we would walk down through there and see if we might find an arrowhead or some type of Indian artifact, because at this particular place that I'm going to show you in just a few minutes on here, we're not going to go into it, but I'm going to show you a little bit of it, was known for for several Indian villages. And in one of these villages was a trading post that an Indian woman started. And that was very uncommon back around 1800 for an Indian woman to do something like that. But she had a trading post built, and it was a two-story house, which again was very uncommon. But anyway, the trading post became very successful, and she became very wealthy over there. But anyway, of course, she had to leave this part of the country whenever the Indians were forced to leave on the Trail of Tears. But we'll get into that on some other video. But what I want to do is to carry you downtown. If you remember in some of the back videos, I've mentioned that we have an Indian mound here, in which we do. And right directly across the river was where the trading post was. And then back downriver about a quarter of a mile is where me and this friend found this tree. And I'm going to tell you about the tree real quick. But now, before we do that, I want to carry on a little field trip downtown to give you an idea of what the lay of the land looks like, so maybe you'll have a little bit better idea of what I'm talking about.
And now, from the tail end of the Appalachian mountain chain in the heart of the South, this is Alabama Adventures.
Okay, now what I want to do right now is to kind of give you an idea of the location of everything that I'm fixing to tell you about. Right back behind me, right over this way, is the old Indian mound here in town. And then right across the river was the trading post. I'm going to put the camera out the window. It's raining right now, but I'm going to put the camera out the window and kind of show you where where everything is. Okay, now right up there you can see the top of the Indian mound, the dome of it. And anyway, if you turn back due east, and that's what I'll span around, due east. Okay, over there on that highest hill, you see the point of that house right there. That hill right above it, right in there, is where the old trading post was supposed to sit. And then about a quarter of a mile back up the river is where we found this tree. Okay, I'm about to try to video this as we're going down the road. Notice that little house right down there, that little boat building or whatever it's called. Anyway, right along in there is where the tree would have been. I'll explain more when we get back home. There's so much traffic on the road this afternoon. You know, I don't know what it is with people that live in this little town. It can be fair weather, anything like that. And it's just an average amount of traffic on the road. But you let it cloud up and they'll turn out school because a tornado's coming or a hurricane or something like that. But if it goes to raining, everybody that's got a car, pickup, a truck, big truck, anything, motorcycle, four-wheeler, bicycle, they'll hit the road bumper to bumper. They'll be swarming like green flies around a fresh pile of hot cow manure in August. Right here you see this is Randolph County Road 33. And it would have been right out in these roads. We've just turned off of Highway 22. And as you can notice, there's some houses in here now. There were no houses in here when me and my friend found this tree. But anyway, I just thought I wanted to give you a little idea of what it looked like over here where we found this tree that day. Now, as I said, the man that owned this land lived in Roanoke, and he was going to have pulpwood cut off of the land. I guess about 30 or 35 years ago now, and this friend of mine had been over there to see him to ask him if we could go on there and just look around and see if we could find arrowheads and any type of Indian artifacts, that type of stuff. And of course, he said we could, and that would be fine. So one Sunday afternoon, that's what me and this guy did. I was trying to think of a good name that I can call. I don't want to call his real name. Of course, he has passed away now. But anyway, let me think of a good name to call him, and we'll get on with the story. Okay, so we just call this friend Reese is what we'll call him. Anyway, that was not his name, but anyway, that's what I'm gonna call him is Reese. But anyway, I went over to Reese's house one afternoon, and we got ready to make our little hike down in the woods. We were going to spend all Sunday afternoon down there looking around and checking rocks, and we might could find corn grinders or arrowheads or tomahawk heads. We didn't know what we were looking for. But we walked down toward the river, and we'd been in there, I guess, about an hour or so, and we ran up on this big tree, this very old tree, and it had all type of symbols on it. It had arrows, it had circles, all type of stuff carved into this tree. And I'll try to do a little illustration real quick to show you some of the things that I can remember that was on this tree. But I bet as you walked around it, they were all the way around it. These little symbols had been carved in there, and you could tell that they hadn't been carved recently. They had been there for a long time because the bark had healed back up where it had been actually cut and had grown back to the tree. But you could still see the symbols very plain. And I'll have to do a little illustration to show you what the tree, what it looked like similar in an illustration in just a few minutes. Now, when he and I walked up on this tree, we didn't have any idea of what all these symbols meant, and still don't. But we knew it had something to do with the Indians. And as I said earlier, there was a large tribe of Indians that lived right there, Indian village, that was right in this particular area. And just about a mile north of where we found this tree was where the trading post was that this Indian woman started. And that was where the main part of the Indian village was right up there on that very tall hill that I showed you earlier. So anyway, we found this tree, and we knew the guy that was going to do the pulpwooding in there. So I went back over there on, this was on Sunday afternoon, and I went back over there on Monday morning. We knew that the pulpwooders were going to come in there Monday morning and start cutting these trees. So I went over to my friend's house, and he lived pretty close over there. And we went down there to where they had cut a road into the forest down there that they would be bringing the pulpwood out of. And we waited on this guy to get there. And whenever he got there, we stopped him and talked to him a little bit, and we explained to him what we wanted to talk to him about, that there was a tree down there that probably had some type of Indian significance. It could mean something, it could mark something, it could tell you where some buried treasure was, some gold, that type of stuff, because there was a lot of gold from this trading post buried in this particular area. And many years later, even after the Indians had to leave this part of Alabama, there were at one time Indians from Oklahoma came back here, and now that's where the Indians here in this part of Alabama had to go to, was Oklahoma. There were cars it was exactly 100 years later, there were cars seen all over that area over there with Oklahoma tags, and there was Indians, say, because they were easily to identify their the way they looked, the way they dressed. And after they left, people went down in there to see what they were doing in those woods. They had an idea that they were down there searching for some of this gold that was buried from this trading post that this woman had to bury. She couldn't carry it all with her. Anyway, they did find places down in the woods where pots of gold, it looked like wash pots, had been dug up out of the ground, and this type of stuff. And that's what was believed, that they came back with a map or something that this particular Indian woman had left, and they knew where to look for the gold and that type of stuff. Now, was that what this tree marked? And that's what he and I wondered after we found this tree. But anyway, we told this pulpwooder over there that morning that there was a tree down there that we wanted. We didn't want him to cut it, or if he was going to cut it, we wanted that we would pay him for it. Because when I first saw this tree, I thought, well, that would look good in my living room. Now, how I was going to get a big old tree in my living room, I do not know, but that was the first thought that went through my mind. But I did want this tree. So anyway, we all got in he got in his truck and we got in ours, and we followed him on down there and walked out in the woods to show him where this tree was, and even took a ribbon, a plastic ribbon, as you probably seen on side of the road whenever they are cutting this type of stuff. Sometimes they mark it with a pink ribbon or yellow ribbon or something like that, tied all the way around a tree if it's a tree that's not to be cut. And that's what we did that day. We tied up this pink ribbon all the way around the tree. and I told him that whenever he decided to cut this tree from about, I don't know, 6 or 8 feet high, he could have all the wood in the top because there was no marks on it. All the marking was down on the base, down on the trunk of the tree, all of the symbols and that type of stuff. And I told him what I would do is I would buy this tree from him. He could have the top part, as I said. I just wanted the base, and I would pay him for it. And I told him that I would give him $100 for this tree. Now, that was a pretty good bit of money back around 30 or 35 years ago. It's not that much now, I know, but back in those days, a cord of wood didn't bring but about $28. And if he'd had that base of that tree was nowhere near the size of a cord of wood. But anyway, it took a whole truckload. Sometimes trucks had a cord on them, sometimes maybe a little bit over. But anyway, $28 was all he would have got for this tree, complete tree. And I told him that I would buy this thing for him for $100. But anyway, I went over there every afternoon and to this friend's house, and he and I would ride down there usually, waiting on the guy to say, I've cut the tree and it's down there, you can have it or whatever, and I'm here for my money. And of course I was going to pay him. But one day we were sitting there on the side of the road waiting on him, looking for him to come out and everything. And he comes out with this tree, my part that I wanted to buy, loaded on the truck. And he was having a big grin and a big laugh about it. And I told him again, I said, didn't I tell you that I would give you $100 for the base of that tree? Yeah, you told me, but he was going to carry it to the pulpwood yard. And that's exactly what happened, and this tree was destroyed. And it just makes you mad that people do you like that sometimes. What I wanted to do was to record the directions of the tree, mark it north, south, east, and west. And maybe later on somebody would have come along that could have deciphered all of the codes in it or the symbols or whatever you want to call it in there. But what was this tree? I have wondered about that for 30-something years. What was this tree? Did it mark a sacred place down there where they performed Indian rituals and that type of stuff? Was it a map to showing where some of the gold was buried? Was the gold buried around a tree and in different directions of different symbols that meant gold to them? Was that where you had to look? Did it tell you exactly how far to walk? Because there was several little notches on the upper part and the lower part of the tree that went all the way around the tree. Did that represent footsteps or some other type of measurement in finding this gold? May not have had nothing to do with the gold. May have just had something to do with Indian rituals, their holy ground, their sacred places, their rituals, and their type of life. But it's just a sad thing that something like that was lost. And that was just something I wanted to tell you about. Was an Indian lore, I guess is what we would call that. But anyway, it was something that I really hated to see go down the road that day as it pulled on out of sight, because I knew I never would see it again. Okay, I wanted to show you this old tree right here. It was similar to the one that had all the markings on it. This tree is in an old cemetery in Zana. But anyway, it resembled the tree down there that had all the Indian markings on it. As I said, now this is not the actual tree. This is just one that resembles it.